Did you get along with everyone on the Golden Girls? I mean,
Oh, yes.
You did?
Oh, yes.
We couldn't pass a horse without Charlie saying, "Can I show you something in an Oxford?"
They said the Golden Girls made TV history. What they didn't tell you is that one episode almost got them erased from it. For 30 years, they were hailed as progressive heroes. But in 2020, a single moment buried inside one episode sent Disney into crisis mode, and what happened next turned a sitcom into a cultural battlefield.
Liberace and Betty White and Johnny Carson, and the three of us all started out together.
This wasn't a scandal about racism. It was a war over memory, over who gets to decide what stays in our history and what disappears. The courageous context and the triple taboo. For decades, The Golden Girls was a home for bold comedy. The show dared to tackle the uncomfortable topics, everything from AIDS to homelessness and even ageism. Back then, TV was obsessed with young, rich, and pretty faces. But The Golden Girls, Dorothy, Rose, Blanche, and Sophia, turned this narrative on its head. They had no glamour filters, no youthful cast to carry them. Yet, they dominated ratings. Nobody saw it coming. 4 grandmothers running primetime TV? Unheard of. In marketing terms, it was a purple cow. Something so strange and bold that it stopped everyone on their tracks. They had no choice but to pay attention. The series took what audiences thought they knew about aging women and flipped it. These weren't sweet, retiring ladies in rocking chairs. They were loud. They were sexual. They were flawed and real. The writers weren't interested in making a sweet little comedy about life in Florida. Instead, they took that soft-colored living room and used it like a safe place. The grandmothers were nice, but the stories were really surprising. They'd pull you in with laughter, then hit you with real talk that made network executives panic. And this was the sweet spot that made Golden Girls stand out from other TV series. Now remember, this was the mid-'80s. Network TV was conservative, safe, and avoided controversies like a plague. But the girls didn't care. They forced Americans to talk about burning and controversial issues. They didn't treat them like side plots, but as the main story. That was the whole point of the show. Viewers didn't just watch these women, they trusted them. To them, they were like family. And that trust let the writers get away with telling difficult truths the rest of TV simply ran from. With Rose's innocence, Sophia's brutal honesty, Blanche's vanity, and Dorothy's deadpan logic, together, their humor worked like a mirror. Every episode made someone uncomfortable. But that was the point. It brought about growth, a change in the viewers' perspectives. By 1988, the show wasn't just a hit anymore, it was a movement. So the writers went for their biggest target, race. They knew it was risky, but they thought, what's the worst that could happen? They crafted an episode that forced a white middle-class family, Dorothy's, to look hard at their own internal biases and reflect on it when confronted with a new, complex family from a different background. The plan was simple: a clumsy mistake, then an honest talk that hurts but helps. The episode was titled Mixed Blessings. It was meant to challenge ideas about interracial and age gap marriage, pushing both the characters and us right out of our comfort zones. What they couldn't predict was that one brief, sarcastic moment, a simple mistake, would be seen more than 30 years later without its original context and judged by a whole new set of cultural rules. On March 19, 1988, the writers released their biggest challenge yet. It starts with Dorothy's son, Michael, who shows up engaged to Lorraine, a black woman. Dorothy naturally has a meltdown. But here's the brilliant part. Her initial shock is not about race, but about the age gap. Lorraine is older than Michael, and Dorothy couldn't hide her judgment. This age conflict is a perfect fake-out. The audience is busy judging the age, completely missing the real storm coming. Lorraine then gently mentions that her parents will be coming to Miami to meet Dorothy. When the Wagner family, Greta, Trudy, and Libby, arrive, the episode takes off completely. The room gets really tense. You can tell right away that Lorraine's family is black and Michael's is white. The satire that backfired. The tension-filled atmosphere in Dorothy's living room set the perfect stage for the scene that would eventually lead to the episode being censored. While the families were locked in a standoff, each trying desperately to prove how accepting and progressive they were. The writers added a side plot, a classic move. Blanche and Rose, unaware of the serious cultural issues happening just a few feet away, were enjoying a beauty treatment to get ready for their trip. They entered the room with thick, dark green-brown face masks on. The look was surprising, meant by the writers as a simple visual joke, a classic part of physical comedy. But the timing, mixed with the strong racial tension in the air, quickly turned the scene from funny to intense. The Wagner family, seeing two white women suddenly with dark faces, immediately pulled back. The image, even for a moment, brought to mind the painful history of blackface, a stage tradition used for years to mock and insult black people. The sight was a real shock. Trudy Wagner, Lorraine's sister, froze. Then came the line that caused the whole controversy. Rose Nyland, in her usual panic and awkwardness, quickly said, "This is mud on our faces. We're not really black." Right then, the episode's joke became clear. The writers mixed in a perfect blend of awkward moments where the white characters got really nervous and scared. Rose's line wasn't making fun of race. Instead, it was making fun of the fear of being seen as racist. It showed exactly when someone, trying so hard to prove they're not prejudiced, ends up saying the wrong thing. It's a painful truth that satire often uses. The scene was meant to be uncomfortable right away, making the audience think about the difference between what someone means and how it looks. But the writers weren't done testing the limits. The emotional climax followed shortly after, around the kitchen table. Once the mud mask confusion was cleared up, the conversation returned to the serious business of the wedding. That's when Sophia Petrillo, the queen of the unfiltered opinion, stepped in. She aimed a cheap cultural joke right at the Wagner family, using blunt, ignorant stereotypes as her weapon. Her line was, "What is this? A revival of Raisin in the Sun?" She was referencing a famous black play, but instead, it sounded like she was being rude and didn't really understand the play. This was the episode's second, more deliberate offense. Where Rose's moment was a clumsy defense, Sophia's moment was a direct challenge. It was a calculated move by the writers to bring actual systemic prejudice to the forefront. And just as the writers intended, Sophia was immediately shut down and corrected. It was Greta Wagner, Lorraine's mother, who rebuked her. She spoke calmly with dignity and moral authority, changing the whole situation. Her character and family, instead of just helping the girls grow, became the ones driving change. They showed the audience a much-needed reflection. The power of this moment and the whole episode came from the amazing strength, honesty, and credibility of the guest actors playing the Wagner family. Their performance was what truly confirmed the episode's caring message. To truly understand why Mixed Blessings was deemed progressive in 1988 but cancelled in 2020, we must stop looking only at Rose's dark mask. We need to look at the actors who stood opposite the girls, the experienced veterans whose presence validated the episode's entire social experiment. Their participation in the show was more than just casting. It was a political statement. The little jokes weren't the whole point. The real genius of Mixed Blessings were not about Dorothy, Rose, or Blanche, or the mud masks. It's about who was sitting across from them in that kitchen. The writers made a smart decision. They brought in black acting royalty. This was a crucial choice that elevated the entire conversation. Leading the family was Virginia Capers, who played Greta Wagner, Lorraine's mother. Capers was not just a sitcom guest star. She was a Tony Award-winning actress known for her powerful and dramatic work. Her presence alone signaled to the audience that this episode was not going to treat the Wagner family as punchlines or stereotypes. When Greta Wagner spoke, her voice had weight. She went toe-to-toe with Dorothy and often won. Then there was Lynn Hamilton, a veteran who could ground any scene. She made it obvious that the Wagner women were sophisticated, successful, and had every right to be offended by the Zbornak's mess. By choosing these great actors, the show showed that the Wagner family had the moral high ground. They got enough time to speak clearly without being interrupted or made fun of. This choice ensured that the episode's intent was sympathetic to the challenges faced by the black family marrying into white culture. You see it in the final conversation when Sophia drops her ignorant question, but the Wagner family doesn't immediately get angry. Greta Wagner's answer was a direct challenge to white bias. She made the girls see that trying to be open-minded sometimes makes you look worse because you still don't understand the culture you're talking about. This exchange is the only defense the episode ever needed. The performances by Capers and Hamilton made it clear that the story wasn't just about the girls winning, but about them learning a tough and important lesson. When a streaming service removed this episode years later, they didn't just take away a bad joke. They erased the key voices that carried the whole message and taught that lesson. This foundation, built on the respect for the guest stars and the morals of their characters, is what got lost when the episode was taken down years later. The streaming service did more than just remove the Mixed Blessings episode. They silenced the voices that spoke out against prejudice and wiped away an important part of TV history that used a talented black cast to challenge white ignorance on prime time. The episode's entire message was hidden by one single visual. That brings us to the biggest question. Why would a misinterpreted satirical scene meant to criticize prejudice cause a massive corporate scare years later? Erased and restored. The battle for context. We have to consider the cultural changes that happened in those 3 decades, from when the show first aired to the time of digital streaming. During that time, society became more sensitive to how things are portrayed, and companies often react quickly to avoid controversy, sometimes missing the deeper meaning behind the content. For almost 30 years after it first aired, Mixed Blessings sparked no controversy. It was included in DVD sets, shown again in reruns, and was easy to find. The controversy from 1988 slowly became just a part of TV history, seen mostly as a bold attempt. But by 2020, this was no longer the case. The year was characterized by a huge cultural shift that altered the trajectory of racial relations on screen, especially with the outrage from the Black Lives Matter protests, which happened in the wake of George Floyd's death. That summer, America had to seriously focus on racial justice, and this change quickly affected Hollywood. Streaming companies had to carefully review every episode they had with a much more thoughtful approach. This movement created a new streaming standard. Suddenly, platforms like Hulu, Netflix, and HBO Max began purging episodes of popular shows that contained clear, undeniable instances of actual blackface. Shows like 30 Rock and Scrubs had episodes pulled at the request of their own creators. The message was clear. In this new, super-sensitive digital age, being careless about history wouldn't be accepted. Unfortunately, this crucial and necessary purging process also created collateral damage. In the rush to sanitize libraries and avoid controversy, the details and actual meaning were often missed. The algorithms and corporate gatekeepers were looking for visual red flags, not narrative context. And that's exactly where Mixed Blessings got caught. On a weekend in June 2020, the episode was quietly removed from the streaming service Hulu, which is owned by Disney ABC, the series distributor. There was no official announcement, no explanation. The episode simply vanished from the Season 3 lineup. The decision was a direct response to the visual of the dark mud masks. The companies recognized that in the current situation, that image, combined with Rose's clumsy defensive line, created too high a legal and public relations liability. The episode's true intent, the criticism of white awkwardness, was entirely overshadowed by the potential of the image being mistaken for what it satirized. This reveals a difference in the way we consume media now versus back then in 1988. There was an obvious viewer shift created by streaming technology. When Mixed Blessings first aired, you had to watch the entire episode from start to finish to understand the context of the mud mask joke. Today, viewers don't watch shows. They often watch clips. The visual of Rose and Blanche in the masks can be instantly isolated on social media or in a 10-second recap, taken away entirely from the 30 minutes of careful writing that surrounded it. Streaming technology effectively destroyed the context of the narrative. The full progressive arc of the episode, which relied so heavily on the dignity of the Wagner family, was destroyed, leaving only a controversial visual gag that felt insensitive when viewed in isolation. The reaction from the fans was intense. Critics and longtime viewers argued that Hulu had committed an act of historical revisionism. The irony was devastating. A major network was silencing an episode that was originally designed to speak out against racial prejudice. Many fans, including members of the Black community who loved the show, passionately defended Mixed Blessings, arguing that the episode's overall message of acceptance and its honest portrayal of the Wagner family made it invaluable. They correctly pointed out that removing the episode didn't solve the problem, but it simply erased a difficult conversation that television history needed to preserve. The fans said the show wasn't supporting prejudice, it was making fun of it instead. By removing the satire, the corporations missed the point entirely. The episode was not permanently banned, as it remained available on DVD, but removing it from the most popular platform showed a worrying new rule for how old, complicated art would be handled in the digital world. The question remained, could this crucial piece of television history ever be restored to its rightful place? The immediate removal of Mixed Blessings in June 2020 was designed to be a quick solution to a complex cultural problem. By pulling the episode, Hulu, under Disney ABC's guidance, aimed to signal that they stand together and avoid any further bad press regarding historical insensitivity. Instead, they earned the episode the banned label it never deserved. It was a surprising contradiction. An episode that had sat on cable reruns and DVD shelves for decades with barely any form of protest was suddenly the center of a national media storm, simply because it vanished from a popular digital platform. However, the deletion achieved the opposite of its intended goal. Instead of silencing the controversy, it created a massive, sustained fan backlash. The reaction was strong and thoughtful. The discussion wasn't just about whether Rose's line was right or wrong, but it was about preserving cultural history. Fans and critics rightly said that taking the episode away was a quick, out-of-context decision that erased the important and forward-thinking voice of the Wagner family. The core of the backlash was centered on one idea: historical revisionism. Many argued that erasing the past, no matter how uncomfortable, robs us of the chance to measure our own progress. Furthermore, the episode's overall message, which was sympathetic to the interracial couple and respectful toward the black family, was being ignored in favor of one isolated visual gag. This passionate, well-rounded defense, often led by black viewers who valued the show's willingness to engage with the subject matter, was impossible for the streaming service to ignore. This pressure forced Hulu and Disney ABC to reassess the situation. They realized that the ban was actually causing more friction than simply allowing the episode to be viewed within its full context. They knew that because no one talked about the episode from 1988 to 2020, it showed that people usually understood its meaning. The fact that the episode was included in DVD sets and shown again on TV made it clear that trying to remove it from the internet was pointless. After being unavailable for just over a year, the episode's return marked a meaningful win. In July 2021, Hulu restored Mixed Blessings to its streaming library. There were no fanfare or apologies. It simply reappeared in the Season 3 lineup. This was an important moment, showing a key change in how streaming companies deal with content. It proved that difficult and complex art should be kept and not taken away. The restoration was a win for context. It proved that for television history to teach us anything, it must be available for scrutiny and discussion, warts and all. The episode returned, not as an unquestioned piece of comedy, but as a historical document that survived digital censorship. Its reappearance on the platform highlighted a powerful message. The messy, painful, and often necessary conversations started by the Golden Girls cannot be easily silenced by an algorithm. The story of Mixed Blessings doesn't end with its restoration. In many ways, that's where its legacy begins. The episode now serves as a historical marker, illustrating the stark difference between television standards in 1988 and the digital viewing expectations of the 2020s. When we watch the restored episode today, we do so with modern eyes, immediately seeing the pain points, the mud mask visual, Sophia's inappropriate question. Yet, the episode compels us to sit through the discomfort to reach its sympathetic conclusion. This is the importance of The Golden Girls. It forces the audience to confront the imperfections of the past in order to understand the complexity of the present. The episode's ultimate win lies in its courage to be awkward. The comedy isn't polished or easy. It's a reflection of how difficult real progress is. The show reminds us that societal change. This usually happens not with big announcements, but through awkward, anxious, and sometimes unsuccessful efforts to truly connect. The episode's message of acceptance, driven home by the impressive performances of the Wagner family, remains the same. The writers risked offending some to challenge the prejudices of others, and that courage is why the episode is worth protecting. At the end of the day, the brief banning of Mixed Blessings only strengthened its position in television history. It proved that a single sitcom episode could spark a national debate about historical preservation, censorship, and the evolution of social mores. The episode's survival and its return to the digital library is a testament to the power of a dedicated audience and the value of keeping complex, challenging art available. The messy, painful, and often hilarious conversation started by The Golden Girls, a show that dared to be so unique and unexpected, cannot be easily silenced by a corporate algorithm today. This episode is more than just a half hour of comedy. It's a living, breathing document of America's ongoing, complex, and necessary conversation about race and family. The return of Mixed Blessings is a win for understanding and depth. It shows that the honest, sometimes uncomfortable history of television deserves to be explored, not cleaned up. The story of mixed blessings is over, but the incredible run of The Golden Girls continued for 4 more seasons, proving that its brand of honest, progressive comedy was not just a trend, but a cultural institution. The show went on to win 11 Emmy Awards and 4 Golden Globe Awards, an achievement almost unheard of for a series featuring a primarily older female cast. For years, it was a centerpiece of NBC's legendary Saturday night lineup, dominating the ratings and demonstrating that risk, when taken with heart, always pays off. The 4 lead actresses became genuine American icons, with their personas inseparable from the characters they played. Bea Arthur, Dorothy, with her perfect deadpan delivery, anchored the show's sharp wit. Rue McClanahan, Blanche, with her southern charm and playful vanity, made female sexuality a celebrated joke, not a source of shame. Estelle Getty, Sophia, the mischievous resident octogenarian, proved that age only sharpens the humor. And of course, Betty White, Rose, who continued to embody cheerful, wide-eyed innocence, became arguably the most beloved television personality of her generation. Their chemistry wasn't just acting, it was a bond that viewers felt deeply, transforming them from fictional characters into one big family. These women changed the world for older women in Hollywood forever. But where did the girls go after they left that kitchen? Well, let's start with Estelle Getty. She fought Parkinson's disease for years and sadly passed away in 2008. But her career had reached great heights. She won an Emmy and a Golden Globe for playing Sophia, and she starred on the big screen in movies like Mask and Stop or My Mom Will Shoot. Then Rue McClanahan, Blanche, our Southern belle with a heart of gold, passed away in 2010 after suffering a brain hemorrhage. Rue was a massive talent before the girls, winning an Emmy for the show Maude alongside Bea Arthur. After The Golden Girls, she kept working, famously appearing in sordid lives and championing animal rights right up to the very end. And the master of the deadpan stare, Bea Arthur, Dorothy. She passed away from cancer in 2009 at the age of 88. Her career was legendary. She already had a Tony Award for Broadway and an Emmy for Maude before she ever met Rose. Bea used her fame to fiercely champion causes she believed in, especially for the LGBTQ+ community, long before it was even popular. And last but definitely not the least, Betty White, Rose. She was a national treasure everyone loved, living almost a century. Betty's career had an incredible second wave after the girls ended, including hosting Saturday Night Live and starring in the hit series Hot in Cleveland. She used her final decades to advocate fiercely for animal welfare. Betty White proved that age is just a number, working and stealing scenes well into her 90s. When she passed just before her 100th birthday, the entire world felt the loss of television's most beloved Golden Girl. Their individual commitment to the show's scripts gave the writers the confidence to keep tackling difficult subjects. They were the driving force behind new ideas, using their fame and kindness to smuggle challenging ideas into millions of homes. The success of The Golden Girls greatly changed the landscape of television, demonstrating that shows about women, minorities, and complex social issues could be massive financial and critical successes. Their achievement paved the way for more diverse and honest storytelling in the decades that followed. The legacy of the girls wasn't just ratings, it was the courage to be different. So, does any modern show carry that torch? Yes, look at Hacks. Like The Golden Girls, Hacks is a comedy about 2 generations clashing. It centers on the fearless veteran comedian Deborah Vance, who embodies Dorothy's strength and Blanche's dominance. The show uses her wealthy status, just like the girls used their sweet setting, as cover to tackle difficult modern topics, cancel culture and ageism. It's the same simple formula: two unlikely people forcing each other into awkward, honest conversations that lead to growth. The humor works like a mirror. Hacks proves the blueprint still works. You can take uncomfortable, risky subjects, wrap them in brilliant humor, and create a powerful movement. The girls set the standard. The next generation is simply following the map they drew 40 years ago. And that is why the fight over mixed blessings matters so much. When the episode was temporarily pulled, the fans weren't just protesting the loss of a favorite show. They were protesting the erasure of a legacy that taught millions of people how to be a little more accepting, a little more fearless, and a lot funnier. The episode's survival, its return to the digital library in 2021, is a testament to the fact that the difficult conversations started by these four women still hold power today. Their light reminds us that the best comedy is often the kind that makes you think, and the greatest legacies are built not on being perfect, but on being brave. Should the episode have been pulled in 2020, or is its uncomfortable nature exactly what gives it significance? Who do you think was more uncomfortable in that episode? Dorothy and the girls facing their biases, or the Wagner family having to deal with the awkwardness? Which character handled the tension best? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this story as fascinating as we did, click on the next video on your screen. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe for more deep dives into history's greatest mysteries.